Good morning, and tensions remain high in the region as military strikes and conflicting political statements continue to shape the situation. U.S. President Donald Trump says peace talks are ongoing, while Iran denies that negotiations are taking place. This comes as military operations intensify, with continued strikes and growing concerns over a wider regional escalation, including developments in Lebanon and across the region. Amid questions over whether diplomacy and military pressure can move forward in parallel, whether short-term pauses could open the door to a broader nuclear understanding. We take a closer look at where this conflict may be heading. Let's continue with the special coverage. Tensions rise as ongoing strikes and mixed political signals deepen uncertainty. U.S. President Donald Trump says peace talks are underway, but Iran denies any negotiations. Meanwhile, about 1,000 U.S. troops from the 82nd Airborne are expected to deploy to the region in the coming days. As airstrikes hit Iran, Tehran has launched missiles and drones towards Israel and across the region. Iran's control of the Strait of Hormuz has disrupted global shipping, pushed fuel prices higher, and raised concerns about the global economy. Iran and Hezbollah have launched a new wave of missiles towards Israel, targeting Tel Aviv and northern areas, killing at least one person and injuring several others as warning sirens sounded. At the same time, Israeli forces are advancing further into Lebanon, following previously announced plans to expand operations along the border. Lebanese officials report that at least 33 people were killed in Israeli strikes over the past 24 hours as fighting intensifies on multiple fronts. To talk to us more about the developing situation, we're joined from Washington by Ginger Chapman, a lawyer and political analyst, and from Cairo by Nurhan Sheikh, a professor of political science. Thank you both for joining us here on special coverage. Ginger, let's start off with you here. Now, the U.S. President Donald Trump says that talks to end the war are ongoing, while the Iranians are denying this. How do you interpret the conflicting statements coming out?
Yes. Well, first, thank you, Rayhan, for having us today, and greetings to your viewers and your other guests. And there are several ways to interpret this. However, primarily, one, we know that Trump wanted to calm the oil markets, and two, that essentially what happened is Trump issued his ultimatum Friday night. He gave Iran 48 hours to fully open the Straits of Hormuz, and Iran replied that if President Trump did strike their power infrastructure, their electrical energy grid, that they would not only retaliate by striking the Gulf states' electrical infrastructure, they would also strike the desalination plants. And this, everyone knows, would spark a humanitarian crisis, and President Trump had all weekend to think about this, and by Monday he realized that this ultimatum was a colossal mistake on top of the already catastrophic mistake of beginning this war with Iran. So Trump backed down. Trump gave or said he postponed for 5 days. It's interesting that 5 days, his postponement date is Friday after the markets close, and that is also when the several thousand troops the 82nd Airborne, the Tripoli, the USS Boxer. This is when the additional naval ships, warships, and additional troops are supposed to arrive. So perhaps Trump feels that whatever happens Friday will happen after the markets closed.
So do you
They
think
will
this
have
is a pause basically to help markets recover and then resume, the conflict or combat as usual?
More than just helping the markets recover, it is Trump realizing that his options are militarily limited, even though we already have troops heading there. That in itself is an escalation because what are the troops going to do when they arrive? He has to do something with them. They cannot be stationed on our Gulf allies' bases. They will be targets if they are, if they amass in size on any of our bases. He cannot get the ships close enough to Iran for any type of uh, naval strikes to soften up the ground to then land an amphibious group. The 82nd Airborne suggests he might try airdropping men in. Um, but once again, his options are limited. Karg Island, how would he get troops there? It's deep inside the Persian Gulf. There's no way to hold the island, to resupply troops there, to defend it against incoming strikes. They would be sitting ducks on the island. There are rumors he wanted to take the islands at the entrance to the Straits of Hormuz. This would be even more difficult because those are fortified, and there is no plausible way for our ground troops to get ashore on the Persian Gulf coast, on the eastern side, through Afghanistan, through the mountain passes. That would be a suicide mission. So we know that Trump is trying to buy time. He's amassing forces. He is also announcing these negotiations because he is looking for a way out. Ironically, any negotiated deal would not be as good as what he had the possibility of gaining before this war started, or before this second phase of the war started, say back in January of this year.
Okay.
And the two sides are very far apart, but Trump is pretending that there are negotiations because he desperately wants negotiations and a way out, while Israel wants to escalate and protract the war for now.
Well, yeah, okay, we're going to get back to the idea of possible concessions there, but let's get Dr. Nuhen's take. Now, if President Trump is saying that peace talks are ongoing, how could we possibly understand the continuation of the U.S. strikes alongside the messaging of, peace talks and negotiations, as well as a pause until Saturday? Up until about a few minutes ago, we can still see strikes in Tehran.
Good morning, and thanks for having me with you. I think if there is a negotiation, it would be under fire because no United States, as well as Iran, ceasefire, and there are many doubts of Iran in such a step from President Trump. Iran doubts a lot the step, as your guest from United States mentioned, that they say it as just a step to recover the stock market and the oil market or something like that, but there is no real negotiations and there is no real offers to Iranians. Plus the previous experience. You know that in two occasions the United States started the war, actually the Israel, the one who started the war and started strikes during negotiations, described by the United States and the Iranian as positive, and it achieved progress, and suddenly Israel started strikes against Iran. So I think there are many doubts, and from Iranian in such negotiations, I doubt there is a direct negotiation. Maybe some other countries like Pakistan, Egypt, Qatar, Turkey. They are trying to mediate, but up to the date there is no concrete progress. So logically, the strikes will continue because no one declares a ceasefire. If President Trump really wants to end that war, I think that he should declare unilaterally a ceasefire that may calm the Iranian doubts and may help to push a real negotiation, direct one between both sides that may lead to a concrete peace.
Dr. Nurhan, if I could just follow up there, do you also agree with Ginger's assessment there that this may have possibly been a miscalculation by Donald Trump, basically, to start this up, and that any negotiations going forward will not be as good a deal for the Americans as it was pre-war?
I think the term is President Trump declared, or at least some American sources like XFN, etc., mentioned to those 15 points or 15 terms, if we can call it like that. The most of them unacceptable for Iranian, I think, and we actually those points back us to 0 point, insisting United States for dismantling the nuclear program, total dismantling for missile programs, etc., etc. All that return us to 0 point, to what already escalating the conflict. I doubt that Iran can accept that because it's from their point of view, a total surrender. And why the war, if the Iranians ready to accept that, why the war from early beginning started? So I think the United States should show some flexibility in the negotiation. And it should be away from humiliating Iran, because that humiliating, even in the historical experience, led to the renewal of any conflict. We need a sustainable peace, a fair peace for all, and that will not be achieved until the United States paid some flexibility and exercise a lot of pressure over Israel.
Okay, Ginger, now you spoke a bit earlier in our conversation about the idea that boots on the ground will be quite a difficult task if it does happen. But if this does happen and the strikes continue, do you think that military pressure could possibly shape how the negotiations take place or influence the negotiations?
Well, we know President Trump has his usual pattern of making an ultimatum, issuing a threat, amassing military power, and then backing down from that threat, trying to gain concessions, and whether he gains concessions or not, he declares victory and says, well, we won. They conceded because of the presence of our massive American military might. But military might is not going to gain America any additional leverage. Before the most recent strikes, Trump could have negotiated perhaps a better JCPOA deal with inspections, having a third country hold the enriched uranium, clarity, transparency on the lack of a nuclear weapons program, perhaps down the line, unlikely negotiations on ballistic missiles. But what we are seeing now is Iran is actually holding all the cards. Iran has the leverage, and as time goes by, Iran is going to have increasing leverage because they have proven themselves capable of holding and controlling and regulating the flow of ships transiting through the Strait of Hormuz. They are even exacting tolls. They even turned away a ship without missile fire. We saw one ship, the Selene, just turn around and leave. So Iran is exercising control over the strait. They do not appear to be able to be dislodged, and they are going to exert increasing pressure on economic pain points on the global economy. They can restrict the flow of oil and gas out of the Gulf, fertilizer, food and supplies into the Gulf. They can restrict flow of energy. Essentially, Iran can control the Strait of Hormuz and they can extend their power, and they are going to apply economic pain until the rest of the world steps in and forces President Trump back to the negotiating table.
I think
And
that the administration doesn't take these seriously.
Well, right now the administration is playing good cop, bad cop with Israel. For example, Trump said, I've changed my mind. We're not going to bomb the electrical infrastructure. And then Israel went ahead and bombed it. Trump says, I didn't want them to do that same thing with the South Pars gas field, the electrical infrastructure. Israel bombs. Trump says, didn't have my permission, and yet they continue doing this. Israel is clearly trying to provoke Iran into retaliating against the Gulf states. This is to drag the Gulf states into active fighting, make them fight. It's also to destabilize the Gulf states, to weaken them, weaken their infrastructure, use their resources as a way for Israel's ongoing agenda of everything around Israel lies in ruins. This is their ongoing agenda of destabilizing, causing destruction and damage to their neighbors, neutralizing their neighbors, and then they call this security for themselves. And they are using the cover of this war to do the same thing in southern Lebanon. They are bombing, displacing people. They're trying to finally gain control of the Litani River and beyond. And this good cop, bad cop, as Israel is pouring fuel on the fire that is the Middle East, Trump is talking about negotiations. He's talking about a 30-day ceasefire, which, as we have seen with Ukraine, this is only to allow the American and Israeli forces to regroup, rearm, and gain their resources and perhaps continue the fight another day, which is why Iran is going to insist. And this is significant, as your other guest mentioned, just like the 20-point peace plan in Gaza, just like our negotiations with Ukraine and Russia, Trump's new 15-point plan for Iran is a repetition of the poison pills that Iran cannot agree to and has not agreed to yet. Meanwhile, Iran, with their increasing leverage, they are saying, we want the United States to withdraw from military bases and infrastructure in the Gulf. We want lifting of sanctions. We want economic, financial recompensation for economic damage. And now they are saying they even want Israel to stop the war on the Lebanon-Yemen fronts. Yes. So Iran is expanding their asks. And the two sides are becoming farther apart, which means we may dig into a protracted battle with America continuing airstrikes from afar because we do not dare get any closer. The troops amassing are unpredictable. No one knows what Iran's going to do. Will Yemen step in? So yes. Everything is unpredictable.
Okay, Dr. Nouhan, how do you see that assessment there by Ginger about the Israelis attempting to further escalate the tensions within the region and possibly provoking the Iranians into further actions to neighboring countries, thus dragging the rest of the region into a wider scale war? How do you see that, and how could Iran position itself diplomatically when it comes to this issue, and even militarily?
I think that Iran made a big mistake when it attacked the Gulf states. They have some justification concerning the American presence, the American interest in the Gulf, but such justification is not totally acceptable, either according to international law and politically, diplomatically, it is unacceptable at all. Because Gulf countries from the early beginning, all GCC countries confirmed that they are out of that conflict and they have nothing in that conflict. Actually, the main loser, if we can call it like that, in such war is Gulf states because they have nothing. I mean, maybe Israel achieves some goals. President Trump mentioned many times that United States achieved many goals from that war. Maybe also Iran proved itself as a regional power, cannot be exceeded and cannot be attacked easily. But the one who really loses and who really has nothing up to the date are GCC countries. Those countries have been attacked. The total loss in their main economy depend on oil and gas exports. Look to Qatar, look to Iraq, to other all GCC countries. Plus the share of people and the loss of many people who are being attacked in their homes, in their safety. This is very, I think, something totally unacceptable. Iran would not stop strikes, as it seems. It will continue strikes against Israel, against some American presence and interest in the Gulf area. And the most worth if United States go forward in that.
So you think, Dr. Nurhan, that possibly? Do you think possibly, Dr. Nurhan, that there is a real fear that the Iranians may continue to strike these areas rather than just focus on, the Israelis or the Americans?
Unfortunately, the United States doesn't seem that it cares a lot about Gulf states. From early beginning, the United States didn't pay any step forward to protect GCC countries. All its interest is to protect Israel, but we didn't see a concrete steps to protect the GCC countries and to protect even its interest and presence in the Gulf area. More worth if we go forward and trying to control Hormuz and to have some fight the Iranian. We are now following that almost 2,500 from the United States is already in the region somewhere, and we expect more than maybe 3,000 or so more. That would be a turning point in the war, and it would escalate the conflict, escalate the war, and it will be a whole disaster for the whole region. So someone have some reason should stop all that in the right point.
Okay, do you agree with the assessment there, or at least the perspective of people living within the GCC area that may see that the United States is not a very good ally, given that they are not protecting the interests of the GCC and they have, borne the brunt of the escalations between the U.S. and Iran?
Yes. Well, this reminds me of an old expression. Someone said, "It is dangerous to be an enemy of the United States, but it is even more dangerous to be an ally." And yes, I agree. The United States has made a target of our Gulf partners, and we failed to protect them. We see that they have borne the incredible brunt of Iran's retaliatory strikes, in particular the United Arab Emirates, who is viewed as perhaps of the Gulf states has the deepest economic investment ties with the United States. So America has placed our allies in jeopardy and then failed to protect them. Which is another reason why people are saying this is a catastrophic miscalculation on the part of the Trump administration. He said all along, they never did anything before. Why would they now? When Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem, no one did anything. When he reclassified Golan, no one did anything. We struck Iran the first time last June. They did not retaliate disproportionately. They had that one symbolic retaliatory strike. So, of course, Trump thought that they would not do anything. We would attack on Friday night. By Monday, it would be over. But it should also be noted that Iran has stated that we have attacked their schools, and they did not attack Gulf schools. We have attacked their hospitals. We have attacked civilian targets when we ran out of military targets to bomb, and Iran has pointed out they have refrained from attacking civilian targets. What this shows is Iran's final demand that they do not want a temporary ceasefire. They want a stop to this war. They want an end to the economic warfare against them. They want an end to the possibility of every 8 months, Israel and the United States will want to bomb them again because of perceived weakness on the part of Iran. So, and this is the interesting thing. When you do not know an enemy's strength, that makes them an inviting target. So at this time, we do not know the extent of Iran's missile reserves, and we do not know if they can hold out longer than the Israeli air defenses, longer than the world's energy flows. This will get interesting within about 2 weeks. Israel is taking a pounding. America is eventually going to run out of air defense missiles. And within about 2 weeks, this will happen. This is also when the cutoff of the flow of energy from the strait is going to not just affect the markets, but hit ordinary consumers more painfully in their wallets. In all countries, energy flow knows no borders. It travels through pipelines, cargo, shipping lanes, supply chains, goods, services. Everything depends on energy. So within about 10 days, 2 weeks, it is going to be critical. More will be revealed.
Okay, Dr. Nurhan, your take here as well. Now, how do you see the trajectory of this conflict within the next few days, given the continued exchange of strikes? Do you also agree with the assessment that within 2 weeks it will be more clear and may possibly be dire?
It is very difficult to introduce one scenario of what is going on because there are many factors involved and many parties involved in that. But we have two main scenarios or two main ways. The first one is really to have achieved something in such a negotiation, if it exists, and the mediators from those different countries of mediators like Egypt, Pakistan, etc., can achieve something between United States and Iran in particular. And that depends on also the President Trump will and his administration will, if they really want to go to peace and is ready to exercise huge pressure over Netanyahu and Israel. The other way is we are going into escalating and a disaster, real disaster in the region. If President Trump listens to Netanyahu, go ahead to dominate Hajj and other Iranian islands to control Hormuz, that would be a disaster for all, because at that time the escalation of the conflict will be out of all hands.